Hi guys, I'm Dimension Jumper, and today I'll be reviewing The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, which was made in 2011 by Nintendo and released for the Nintendo GameCube, Nintendo Wii, and the Nintendo Wii U. Now, I'm mainly going to be reviewing the Wii version because I don't have the GameCube or the Wii U versions, and this is like the main version I have, and plus it was kind of pointless to get the Wii U version when I have this version already. So, the main story of this game is that Link has to give this item to the royal family the day after tomorrow, which was requested by a friend of his in his neighbouring hometown village place. And he soon finds out that the land of Hyrule has been covered in twilight by Sand, who's basically this villain guy who wants to engulf all of Hyrule and make it his. And upon finding out, he is accompanied by this creature called Minna, and then he can turn into a wolf once he passes the twilight. And Minna asks Link to help her find these few shadows that are scattered around Hyrule. And they need those few shadows to stop Zant, and so on and so forth. Now, what I like about Twilight Princess is the fact that it's really, the graphics are really well put out, especially for the Wii. The gameplay itself, it works splendid. I think that all of the motions that you do are quite well done, but it's not like Skyward Sword based combat, where in Skyward Sword the sword moves with the Wii remote. But if you do a certain action in Twilight Princess, Link would do that action. If you did like a spin attack, Link would also do a spin attack, so on and so forth. But when it came out, this particular version, I think, people said that the brighting setting wasn't the best. It's like quite dark. People could hardly see when the sun was out, that sort of thing. But for me personally, I didn't find anything wrong with that. I when I was playing through the game multiple times, I found it to be nice and okay, and didn't find any kind of problem with it. And this is also not only do the settings have like a kind of dark tone when you start out the game, but this game itself has a sort of dark-ish tone, but not kind of like the dark tone in Majora's Mask, let's say, because in Majora's Mask, the entire game is based around being all dark and kind of like the Dark Knight trilogy, sort of. Like, that's how Majora's Mask to me feels like, kind of like the Batman, Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan movies kind of Zelda games. But this does take a dark route, and throughout the game you come across various different characters, like the children of your village, and your village in general. You get to meet Princess Zelda, you get to meet Goron, Zoras, and creatures of all shapes and sizes. Now, this is like one of my like top 3 Zelda games, and the reason for this is because I enjoy a lot of this game. I enjoyed a lot of the story, a lot of the side quests, the main quest, mini games, and various other stuff that most other games don't really have. If you know what I mean. If you played any other Zelda games before, this game has some of the most interesting side quests and mini games to come out. Now, within the game, Link can turn into a wolf. Now, what I like about this ability is that it sharpens Link's senses mainly of sense of smell and sense. Well, kind of, and like sense and smell. That's basically the main thing that gets sharpened. And also, Wolf Link, which is the name Link gets when he becomes into a wolf, he also has his own set of abilities. So apart from like the senses, He also can bite certain enemies. He can do a spin attack, just kind of like how Link does with his sword. And he can jump to attack his enemies and grab them in his mouth and like kind of like throw them about, kind of like a chew toy. Well, mainly the bats. He does that too, but otherwise is like basically different attacks. But also, when he's in his wolf form, Minna, who's your companion throughout the game, can target enemies, and I think that's like the most useful, especially when you're fighting against these Twilight enemies, which come about throughout the game, and they appear to basically activate a portal. And yeah, I think that's the most useful, because if you keep even one alive, that will scream to revive the others. And I think that's kind of useful if you want to take out all of them at once. But you do have to make them go into the field targeting area thing in order for it to work. And if you wait for like a few seconds and not able to get all of them in the same field, you'll just automatically get the ones that you've already targeted. Now, one of the worst things, in my opinion, that happens in the game is when you're coming across the Master Sword. Now, you need the Master Sword in order to turn back into a wolf form after you've collected the third Fused Shadow, but when you do collect it, Zant takes them off you and then turns you into a wolf again, which is kind of annoying because, like, you spent all of this time collecting the 3 Fused Shadows for Zant just to come and nick them away from you. And yeah, and he exposes Minna to be in the light by the light spirit, because the light spirits have been taken away to that light from Zant, and to collect all of the light vessels things back, which is kind of a bit linear like than the rest of the game, because you have to like go along a certain path and just do this and that, but that didn't really bother me that much. Yeah, and so the Master Sword is kind of like annoying thing, because it's located in the Lost Woods, and not only do you have to follow the Skull Kid around by hearing like his trumpet sort of thing, but you have to do this puzzle with these 2 statue guard looking things, and I just found it to be really difficult and really slows down the game like a lot. Because basically what you have to do is move the statues to the original places. Now that sounds simple enough, but they move in different directions. So one statue moves the way that Link goes, and the other statue goes in the opposite direction. Now that's really, really, really terrible, like for gameplay wise and story wise, because it might take you like an hour or 2 hours just to get the Master Sword. But thankfully that's like the only part of the game that you need to do. It's like you do have to go back to that place like again, but that's like for a later part of the game. And yeah, and now it's time for some gameplay. Now the gameplay for this game is quite nice. Not only can you like do like different actions with your swords, like this, like these slashes, like that. You can also do a spin attack. And there are 2 main spin attacks. There's your normal spin attack, and then there's your great spin attack. Now, the only way to get a great spin attack is finding the hidden skills. Now, these are the hidden skills that you find throughout the world, but you can only get an ability or one of the skills by going to these Howling Stones. And you can only activate it by using Wolf Link, and then you'll meet this soldier, warrior, Stalfos looking guy, which people have theorized that it's actually young Link from Majora's Mask. Natural, because this game is set in the child timeline and after Majora's Mask. And the child timeline in this game, or in the franchise, is when Link defeats Gandalf or Ganon, and is sent back in time to his childhood by Princess Zelda. And that's where people have theorised who the guy is. Now then, there are some enemies like you can face, like this sort of like enemy looking thing. I don't know what kind of like enemy that guy is, but they're like one of the enemies. Now, the hidden skills vary from like ending blow to a shield attack, which are basically well-known attacks in the Zelda games, to other things like the Helm Splitter, the jump attack or jump strike, mortal blow, back slice, and also the great spin attack. Now the great spin attack can only be activated if you have full hearts. If you have if you have like a heart taken away, you won't be able to do it. The back slice is basically what's on the screen, but if you can't see it, I'll tell you what it is. Well, C targeting, roll around your opponent by jumping with A and attack mid-roll by shaking the Wii remote. And there are various others. Now, there are some collectibles in the game, that being the golden bugs. Now, the golden bugs can be shown to Agatha, who is this bug princess person in the game, and in order to find all of them, you have to go to the locations of where you found one of the golden bugs. For example, for the snails, you can find one of them when the Temple of Time has been reduced to rubble, and you can find the other one when the Temple of Time wasn't in rubble, if you know what I mean. And they do give you hints, like this one. It was found in the field east of Castletown, and yeah, so on and so forth. And there are also Poe-souls. Now, the Poe-souls, I think there are about 60 or 70 Poe-souls in the game, and once you collected all of them, if they give them to Giovanni, who's the person who's trying to get the Poe-souls, and he'll give you like 200 rupees, and his cat, who you can talk to if you're in your wolf form, can give you an extra refill of 200 rupees each. Now the Poes can only appear at night, and you can only attack them if you're in your wolf form. So yeah, so now I can't use the great spin attack. So, and I do like this bit. When Link defeats certain enemies like bosses, or boblins, or bokoblins, or whatever, he does that cool little trick thing. So yeah, that's like probably one of my favourite things. And his items, I think these are like the most items Link has ever had in any Zelda game, because he's got like his claw shots, the Dominion Rod, Ball and Chain, Spinner, Hero's Bow, Iron Boots, Gale Boomerang, the Lantern, Slingshot, the Fishing Rod, the Hawkeye, which is basically a mask that can be used with the bow or not. Bombs, water bombs, and the bottles, and the horse call. Now I'm just gonna show you how the Hawkeye and the bow work. So you can do that. You can scan around the area, and you can basically sort of snipe enemies. That didn't work because it's going towards me. So yeah, the ball and chain does slow Link down a bit when he's got it out. So does the iron boots. And the bomb arrows, basically what you're seeing here, basically it's basically like that, and they an explosion if they hit their target, or if they don't, they just explode, like when they've run out of a fuse. There is a glitch, you get infinite bomb arrows, but it's going to be like a long time for me to like do it and show you. So yeah. And also you've got, not only do you have, you know, your swords and shields, but you've got the Master Sword, the Hylian Shield, and also your different items, well, armors. You've got the Hero's Clothes, the Zora armor, and the Magic armor. Now the Magic armor is a kind of like a cool armor to have, because it, instead of taking damage and taking one of your hearts away from, but when you get hit by an enemy, it drains your rupees. And you can also get another one in the Wind Waker, but there's one major difference. In the Wind Waker, whenever you're hit, rupees will just fly out of you. In this one, rupees, if I just show you, basically drain. So that's kind of like a bad thing, like with this particular armor, and if you do get hit, you'll lose even more rupees. So I suggest, if you want to like look cool for a while, do wear the Magic armor, but if you do need something to buy or something, I suggest don't wear it. And yeah. Now the Wolf ability, you can press the up button on, or the up part of the Wii remote on the triangle cross thing, and you can like talk to Minda, turn into a wolf, or warp. Now the warp, you can travel to anywhere that has the blue portals. So for example, you can travel like here, anywhere in the world, and I'll just show you here. So we're going to walk down and say yes. Now Link will automatically become a wolf. I think it's kind of like a lot easier, because then you don't have to like turn to a wolf, then warp. I think that's like quite nice. And the senses, you can like sense with that, and you can dig, but you can only dig in certain places, and you can turn back into a human whenever you want. And yeah, that's been the gameplay part of it. So when you get the Master Sword, Minda tells you that she has to find the Twilight Mirror, and it's somewhere in Hyrule, but the location of it is in the Arbiter's grounds, which is in the Gerudo Wasteland Desert place. Depends on who you ask. I think they either say the Gerudo Wastelands or the Gerudo Desert. I think I'm confusing that with Breath of the Wild, but I don't know. I think Twilight Princess had it first, like the Gerudo Wasteland or something. I'm not too sure. But what I like about this section of the game is that you get to face like really well-known bosses and enemies. So for the enemies, especially in one of the temples you go to, you get to face the Dark Nuts. Now, the Dark Nuts are basically these warrior swordsmen who carry like heavy armor, and the more armor you take off, the more nimble they'll become, and that will make them like a sort of challenge towards the end of the game, because you get to see like more of them. You'll feel a bit more trapped by their presence, because of how much damage they can do to you and other stuff. So when you do find the Mirror of Twilight, you find out that it's split into 4 pieces. And now that part is probably my favourite part, because you can find like different people to help you out with finding the pieces. And what you can do is, like, for one of the pieces, you have to go to the Temple of Time. Now the Temple of Time has been a staple location in several Zelda games. It's in Twilight Princess, it's in Ocarina of Time, it's in ruins in Breath of the Wild, and it's also like an origin temple in Skyward Sword, even before it became the Temple of Time. And why I particularly love this Temple of Time in Twilight Princess is that you can, when you first go to the Temple of Time, it's in ruins, but when you go back there, not only can you go to it in its ruined form, but you can also go to it before it was in ruins. And I think that's kind of like ingenious, and I really like that, seeing come back again in Breath of the Wild 2, like see how the Temple of Time should have been, and see the more less ruined state. Now, the bosses in the game are quite enjoyable. One of my favourite bosses in the game is Armagoma, because one of the items you use is the bow and arrow and the Dominion Rod. Now, the bow and arrow is kind of like self-explained. It's basically a bow with an arrow, and you can fire either arrows or bomb arrows. Now, bomb arrows are basically arrows with bombs attached to them, and I think they're kind of like more effective, well, but slightly, because not only can you hit enemies from far away, but you can also like get hit multiple enemies at once. You can also hit boulders with bomb arrows, so that's kind of like ingenious. And they brought it back for Breath of the Wild. So yeah. And for the Dominion Rod is this item where you can like possess these statue things. They vary from these small cube looking things to owls to these menacing hammer looking guys. And yeah, I just enjoy using the Dominion Rod in the temple that it's used in, which is the Temple of Time, and for this boss fight. And the enemies you find throughout the game vary from goblins to boblins to dark nuts, and to these ice creature things that can only be defeated by the ball and chain. Now those are kind of like the harder ones, like for example some of the ice creatures and the dark nuts. Because the ice creatures, they vary from these walking guys with spears to these big mammoth looking creatures that have an incredible range with their frost attack, and you can only defeat them by using the ball and chain. Now the dark nuts are these swordsmen that have huge armor on them, but when you do attack them, they will lose armor with every hit you get onto them. Now, and once you do get all of their armor off, they'll throw their sword and take out this smaller sword, and they become more nimble, more quick. They're damaged. They take more damage to you, and this is kind of like the push is more intense the more you fight, because the first one you fight is in the Temple of Time, then there's some more in Hyrule Castle, and then there's more in the pits thing. I forgot what it's called in Gerudo Desert, in which they're on the final floor, and you have to face off 3 of them, and it's really, really difficult. Now, when you do find the mirrors of Twilight, you can collect them and put them back into the true form, and then you can go back into, well, not go back into, you can go into the Twilight Realm, and before you do, you find out that Minda is the true ruler of the Twilight, which is basically the tribe that's in the Twilight Realm, and Zant is the person who possessed her and why she is in her cursed form. Now, what I like about the Twilight Realm is that it basically uses some of the items that you've used along the way. Well, mainly the hook shot, the claw shot, but you can use like several of the other items, like the bow and arrow, and I think the boomerang. I'm not too sure, but yeah. And when you find out Zant, he tells you that Ganondorf, it was the person who is the main villain, and Zant is his puppet sort of thing, and you kind of like sort of know that Ganondorf's going to be the final boss, because before you're trying to find the pieces of the Mirror of Twilight, you find out that Ganondorf was being executed, and yeah, so you finally realise that Ganondorf is going to be the final boss instead of Zant, and I kind of like Zant. He's got this whole like darkness to him. He's got this demeanor when he's in your presence, you know he means trouble. And when you find out that Gandalf is the true antagonist, it's kind of like, well, that kind of ruins everything. But it's Zelda, it's gonna have the main villain in some point. So my final verdict of the game is that I enjoyed it. The graphics itself hold up pretty well, and the other two versions, the Wii U version and the GameCube version, are basically similar, but for the GameCube version it's mirrored, and with the Wii U version it's basically got higher graphics because it's in HD. And plus you can find some stamps you can use for like the Miiverse, which was recently, like a few years ago, went offline. So yeah, and I really enjoy it. So I hope you enjoyed my review for Twilight Princess. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and hit the bell for more notifications, and I'll see you in the next video.